My dear friends, I am Krishnan from the Verbal Department of Corporate and Industrial Relations, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Amritapuri. Today, I would like to share some thoughts regarding one of the most important aspects of verbal questions. That's reading comprehension. All of you may be wondering what this reading comprehension means. Let us see what exactly reading comprehension means. It is nothing but a capacity of a person, preferably a writer, who wants to convey his ideas to a reader. He uses this as a medium to convey his ideas. Thereby, the writer and the reader come on the same platform so that the wavelength accepts what is given by the writer and the reader understands it. Human brain assimilates ideas and doles out what is relevant. The human psyche also requires something which separates what is required from what is not required. So, reading comprehension is essentially taxing your brain to separate the important from the unimportant. Now, reading comprehension is a skill, just like any other skill that we may possess. And it has got to be learned only through practice. All of us know that Rome is not built on a day. Practice makes a man perfect. You have to make practice as your mantra. Go on doing it as many times as possible. Focus on what you practice with diligence, and it can definitely be learned without much difficulty. It's a necessary skill to master both for work and for pleasure. What I mean is, it is required for your professional as well as for your personal life. Understanding the skill reading comprehension is essential, as many employees use this measure to language proficiency of the prospective job seekers. They try to test your ability in understanding what is given to you in a passage and the capacity to comprehend diligently and then give answers to the questions that are asked. Now, let me share with you some general tips to crack a reading comprehension question. Passages normally are followed by questions which have got to be answered. It will also weigh one's capacity to critically analyze the information provided and how well one reflects it in their responses. Mind you, in order to reflect it in your responses, you should have a fairly good vocabulary and you should have a fairly good idea of grammar and its usage. Then you would ask me how we can master this capacity to understand grammar as well as vocabulary. I told you earlier that Rome is not built on a day. Constant practice is what is required. It is not a teaching session, it is a learning session. There is nothing much to be taught, but there is a lot of things to be learned. So, your practice is what decides your capacity to answer such a question. Now, the first question that comes to anybody's mind is vocabulary building. How can one build a vocabulary? It can be done, as I have already told you, through systematic practice. Develop a systematic reading habit by reading newspapers, books, etc. The more you read, the better it will be for you to understand the words. Jot down all the words for which you are not able to get the meanings. Unfamiliar words, when you confront while reading, should be taken note of, and try to refer to dictionaries or any medium by which you will be able to get the answer. Not only that, your success lies in using those words in a sentence of your own. So, by mastering vocabulary, you are not only getting a grip of grammar, but you understand what exactly is meant by the reader. So, reading has to be done on a systematic way. Now, the next important thing that will come to your mind when you're confronted with a reading passage question is time management. Time management is a tool which again will come only through practice. If you read it for once or twice or thrice, you cannot be a master of time management. You have to develop the habit of reading systematically and make a note of the time that you take for answering each question. Record the time taken to answer each question and watch for progress in answering the questions. Yes, the next thing that you should have in your mind when you are confronted with a reading comprehension question is set a method of your own for preparing to answer such questions. First, read the passage carefully. You can, if you are proficient enough, use the skimming and scanning method. But before that, try to understand the gist of the passage, understand the situation in which the passage is written, and systematically reduce the time to answer such questions correctly. Initially, you may go wrong. Never mind. Rome is not built on a day, as I told you earlier. You have to slowly build up the practice, and no doubt, I'm sure that everybody who is doing this in a systematic way will end up only in success. So, that diligence as well as your methodical approach to such questions is absolutely necessary. Question may arise in your mind how to tackle different subjects, because reading comprehension is an area where the examiners can give you or test you on so many fields. What you have to do is you will have to separate important information from the not so important ones, and again that has got to be done in a systematic way. Different types of questions will be asked at the end of the passage. Questions based on the passage can either be vocabulary based or theme based. It can also be based on facts or inference. What do you mean by vocabulary based questions? Vocabulary based questions are those which will test your efficiency in cracking the vocabulary questions. That is, you should know how the words are being used and the situation where it is used. Secondly, you can try to do the theme based questions. When you read a passage, you will naturally come to understand the theme on which the author has based this passage. So, theme based passages and vocabulary based questions are the ones comparatively easy for you to answer. Then come the questions based on facts and also questions based on inference. Compared to the vocabulary based questions and the theme questions, these are slightly difficult, more difficult than the earlier ones. Facts, so for which you will have to look for facts in the passage, which may be either at the beginning or in the middle or at the end. Okay, once you master that through practice, then getting the inference is going to be not difficult for you. So, answer the vocabulary based questions and the theme based questions, which are relatively easier, followed by questions based on facts or inference. Now, focus is something which is absolutely necessary. Concentrate while reading so as to avoid repeated reading. There is a time factor, as I have already mentioned, that you are given allotted a particular time within which you'll have to complete reading the passage and then look at the questions and then try to find out the answers. And some of the questions may be confusing, and if you give a wrong answer, there is every possibility of you're getting a negative mark. So you should focus on your reading, and that can come through practice, and concentrate so that you avoid repeated reading and thereby wastage of time. Yet another approach to this is by developing a quick reading. You read the passage first in a quick way and try to understand the gist. If you are not able to do it, go and concentrate on the first passage and the last passage. Generally, the writers do sum up their content invariably in the first and the last paragraph. There is only another approach, but it may not be possible in all the questions. Make a note of the central theme of the passage that you are writing. That can come only through systematic reading. Yes, the next approach will be the cue words that you may find in the passage. What are these cue words? There can be different kinds of words, like the structural words, which will determine the course of a passage. What are the structural words? The structural words are mainly classified into three. The first one is continuity words. By continuity words, the author wants to support his point of view further. That is, he is giving you certain words like similarly, moreover, additionally, in the same way, likewise, etc. If you find any of these words, so that is an indication that the author wants to take his theme further. The continuity words will be followed by contrast words. It means that it gives you a contrasting opinion. Examples like nonetheless, but, however, although, despite. These words will give you an indication that the author wants to convey something contrary to what he has already expressed. And then he gives you lastly, he comes with the conclusion words. That is, he is trying to sum up his argument. Conclusion words are words like, if he is using words like thus, therefore, hence, in summary, in conclusion, you know that the author is trying to conclude. So the words, the vocabulary that is used normally in a reading passage determines the course of the passage, whether he is going to support that theory or whether he is going to oppose that. And in conclusion, he will be giving out his opinions also. So a good reader, a quick reader, an understanding reader will definitely be able to understand the passage if he gives importance to all these cue words. Now, choice of words by the author, either positive or negative, to establish the motive of writing should also be looked into by the reader. See, there are different kinds of words. The positive words like efficient, enthusiastic, bright, fortunate, passionate, these all give you a positive bent of mind. It gives you something which the author wants to convey in a positive way. Likewise, he may also use words like foul, alarming, detrimental, pessimistic, stressful, etc. These words, whether they are positive or negative, will help establish the motive of the author. So you will have to look for such words. That's why earlier I mentioned that mastering vocabulary is one of the ingredients that are required for mastering the reading passage. There is yet another approach called the PQ approach, which means you read the passage first and then the questions. I mentioned it earlier that you either skim through the passage or scan through the passage and keep going back and forth with questions and passage. Of course, it is easily said than done, because it can come only through practice. Because simultaneously, if you want to look at the passage and look at the questions, you require a lot of practice in that. So that is what is called the PQ approach. Of course, Then you have one more approach called the QP approach. That is just the opposite of that. You read the questions first and work back, then the passage. Master the questions first and look for the answers in the passage. And again, with the help of the skimming and scanning method, read all the questions with their answer option first and then the passage. And these are the ways by which you will be able to get an idea of the passages. And what you have to do at the end is to check again and again for your choice of options for the questions. Again, I repeat, it's a time-based program and you will have to do it only with practice. Release it with a passage for verifying its suitability. Okay, my dear friends, these are the tips I would like to share with you, and I just wish you enjoy reading with a purpose. Thank you very much.